And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined on this glorious Thursday afternoon by Aaron Larsoul. He freshly off of Jeannie Buss's wedding. Are you willing to give up some details? Did anybody get
Sure.
overly drunk? Did it was
No,
no?
actually, no, not at all. No.
Well, because
There was
Jay
a
is famously sober, so
Jay is in fact sober. Yes. Yeah, I would say most of the crowd. I mean, there were very few. There were not very many people there. I think it was maybe 20, 25.
yeah.
And a lot of them are non-drinkers. So the most likely candidate would have been me, but no. I did not.
Did you give a speech? Did you?
No, I didn't. I did not. I sat in the front row, on the groom's side, the closest seat to the aisle in the front row. So, yeah, it was not. It was not
Does
that.
that make you the flower girl?
Maybe, yeah, maybe. No. It was very informal. There wasn't really a wedding party. Maybe really I would have been in it if there was one. It was beautiful. There was a fantastic Magnum bottle of the Sincoro Extra Anejo. So myself and a couple other people sipped on that throughout the festivities. And there was lovely wine and champagne, and the food was great, but it was not that formal of an affair. So
you mean to tell me people were drinking wine in the middle of the afternoon as if I'm the monster for ever partaking in such activities?
This was not the middle of the afternoon. Do not let how bright it was outside. It was on the beach in Malibu. Do not let how bright it was outside fool you. It was not the middle of the afternoon.
I actually also went to a wedding on my vacation. Not Jeannie Buss's. It was not Jeannie and Jay's, but I went, you tell me. All right. So I have a buddy who I have known since damn near elementary school, middle school at the latest. And, we got together with him on a Friday. He was like adamant, we have to get dinner. We have to see you guys this trip, And I had a feeling we were going to find out something from them. Okay. So we see him, and about 10 minutes into meeting him, he goes, well, we have some news, and I'm not going to say the person's name. And I was like, okay, I'm prepared. He goes, well, we have two things of news. I go, okay.
Wait, who is we? Who is he with?
With his significant other.
Okay.
Girlfriend, I thought, heading into that event. We come to find out, hey, we're getting married. Okay. Awesome. I anticipated that update. Cool. Also, we're pregnant. Okay. Oh, okay.
Cool. Yeah, cool.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Those things do go. I'm Mexican. That they go hand in hand very frequently.
You know what? They go hand in hand all the time. And by the way, who cares? Get pregnant before you're married. Who gives a shit? It's 2023. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Don't get married at all if you don't want to. Who gives a shit?
So he tells us they're getting married. I'm like, awesome. When? Yeah. He goes, Sunday.
Cool.
Pardon? He goes, yeah, if you guys don't have any plans, you guys are more than welcome to go.
Oh, more than welcome. Thanks. 2 days notice?
I packed for vacation. This is one of the shirts I was wearing on my vacation. I did not pack a collared shirt. Certainly nothing beyond shorts. I think the most formal attire I had were a pair of dark jeans. Okay. Did not have any nice shoes or anything like that.
You had to run to Men's Warehouse right quick?
If you guys are interested, we're getting together this Sunday. It's going to be super casual. And wear what you have or whatever. So Jen goes in, of course, looks glorious because she's Jen.
Yeah.
She goes in, finds an outfit that looks incredible on her. I show up, polo shirt, jeans, and running shoes. And I'm not, look,
what was everybody else wearing? The people who had 3 days notice or maybe 5 days notice.
Well, look, somebody
what were the bride and groom wearing?
Dress pants, unbuttoned collared shirt, and dress shoes. Okay. So look, I knew I was going to be the least formal person there. Yeah. But I am also anal about these things. I worked at Men's Warehouse. I always when my friends.
I would rather be overdressed than underdressed.
Me too. And certainly not the least formal at an event, and that was me. But like at the end of the day, like as I was sitting there and like being self-conscious when I showed up, like at the end of the day, I'm the furthest thing from those people's minds.
Oh
and
yeah,
that's all that really matters. You know,
I was not. It sounds like a similar. Well, I don't know how similar it is, but as far as the dress
Vibe.
requirements, it sounds like we had a similar Sunday. I did have a little bit more warning than that. But this one, Jay and Jeannie was actually on the beach, so that gives you some license to. Quite a few people were not wearing shoes, so that gives you some license to make it less formal. I was one of the more formal people there, and I was in pretty much casual Friday attire, and I was one of the more formally dressed people there. But your boy did you dirty, giving you 2 days notice when you're living out of a suitcase as it is to try to throw something together.
But it was beautiful.
What time was this wedding on Sunday?
So my Sunday that morning involved brunch with Harrison.
Yeah. Did he give you your glasses back?
Yeah, a trip to Kohl's to go pick out this clothing. Dropping the kids off at my parents' and rushing to get there by noon. In Riverside. So.
Oh, all right. Yeah, we didn't get started till the ceremony was at 5, so that's why wine was permitted, because the ceremony. There may have been people who were drinking wine. We got there at 4. I got there early, but the guests arrived at 4, and then the wedding itself was at 5. So there may have been some people who had started in on the wine pre-ceremony. Which is a violation. That's too early. Champagne, fine.
It is.
Champagne, fine.
I don't think
that can be like the extended
especially
brunch.
On the beach.
That could be extended brunch.
If it's like a nice, cool day on the beach, I will have a glass of wine at noon.
Yeah, you'll have a glass of wine at noon sitting in there talking to me, and it'll be red wine, which is the problem. A sparkling wine, I'll even let you get away with a rosé. But red wine at noon, no. If you're like eating lunch at an Italian restaurant, that's like maybe, or it's like Tony Soprano around, then maybe you're all right. If somebody is slicing garlic with a razor, and it's at like noon, and it's some big like family feast at noon, no, maybe you can drink some red wine, but it's got to come out of one of those glass jugs with like the woven with the rattan at the thing on the bottom. Okay, fine. Okay. Then you can, but otherwise, no. Red wine before 5 is a violation.
I love a nice chilled Pinot. It is
red
a nice
wine ain't supposed to be chilled to begin with.
No, try it. Try a chilled Pinot. I'm telling you, it is delightful. I'm telling everybody listening. If you're on the East Coast right now, it's 3:00. Try it. No judgment from me. Maybe from everybody else around you, but none from me.
There, you're getting judged for me. What are you drinking? Beer with a straw? You're getting judged by me.
All right, so today we actually have a lot to talk about. We have the newest addition to the Lakers roster, Christian Wood, somebody who, if you guys have been listening to this show or any show on this feed for weeks, you would have seen this coming. So we'll talk about that.
I no longer have to say Hennessy is delicious.
Remarkably, it was a remarkably polarizing signing, which tells me we are in September. But we're going to talk about that. Another sign that we are in September.
The greatest of all months.
Oh, because what? Oh, because your birthday's coming up, right?
My birthday is coming up, but it's also the beginning of basketball and football.
Yeah. I would agree. I wouldn't say it's the greatest of all months. I prefer colder months. It's still 105 degrees outside.
Now that I'm no longer in school, it's great, because when you're a kid in September, all the classes start. You're like, fuck.
I can't wait. I cannot wait for September as the father of children in school, because that first day of school, I am throwing them at the building. Take them. I do.
You don't seem like the parent, your wife perhaps, but you do not seem like the parent that is like filling out the chalkboard like Avery's first day of kindergarten and having her hold up the thing and taking a picture. No, that doesn't seem like your wife perhaps, but not you.
I'll take the picture, but I am not organized enough to, do all of that. Although we celebrated her first day of pre-K this year. She's getting big. You met her. We'll talk about you meeting the children at the very end of the show.
Okay.
But yeah, we have the Lakers offseason to now fully recap. I think they're a top 5 team in the NBA. Again, the Christian Wood signing was very polarizing. That kind of took me by surprise. So we'll talk about the various angles to that. And the last and final sign that we are in the fall. This is like the NBA's groundhog is AD leaking that he would like to play a little less 5 this year. It's like that's how you know training camp is right around the corner, and we are in fact September. Dave McMenamin reported that AD would like to play less 5 this year than he did last year, and again, there's several
where he played literally 100% of his minutes at center.
Right. Yeah. So we'll talk about all of that. Let's start though with the newest addition, Christian Wood. I like the signing. It was one that, like I said earlier, everybody listening to this pod should have seen coming. It was in the works for a long time. The fact that it happened makes me think that the league is kind of moving on from, waiting for Damian Lillard and James Harden to be moved, which makes those situations certainly a little bit more interesting potentially, that both guys might enter training camp with the same teams that they ended last season.
That's what it is. The league isn't moving on from it. It's an acknowledgement that those two guys are both going to training camp with their incumbent teams.
Yeah, no, that's moving on. Whatever, we're talking semantics, but that was my response. It's like, oh, okay, they aren't getting moved. Everybody's
doesn't seem
like continuing with their finishing off their business. So, but I noticed. So Darius on the LFR pod seemed to be lower on the move. Others, I think Richard Sherman said it's like the Lakers acquiring Pau Gasol. I don't know if I would necessarily go that far.
He did say, I did see that.
Am I allowed to, like, all right, so Richard Sherman's an incredible athlete, obviously. Am I allowed to do the whole, like, no thoughts on basketball unless you played basketball thing?
So, okay, so this was... Let me clear my throat. Let me channel my Busta Rhymes here. Let me clear my throat. So this I used to be in this industry, right? In sports radio and TV, and I have never liked the embrace debate thing. I was part of FS1. I was more around. Yes, I was around the launch more than I was part of the launch. I was kind of part of the launch, but I was around more and doing some stuff at Fox Sports Radio and some stuff at FS1. And I don't understand I don't understand the genre. It is what it is, but that is the reason for it. Like Shannon Sharp, for example, who's now on whatever the ESPN version is, First Take, and was on the FS1 version. I don't understand. You can't be good at everything. You can't know everything. Stephen A. Smith is as good as anybody at knowing a lot about a lot, but he gets stuff wrong all the time because you just can't be an expert on anything.
Even about his like bread and butter sport, basketball.
So I get my issue with it is this like forces you to have this style forces you to have an opinion on everything, and you just shouldn't have an opinion on everything. I don't want to hear from Shannon Sharp about the intricacies of basketball. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I definitely want to hear from him about football. And I'm willing to listen to you on like locker room dynamics, that kind of stuff. Cause you've done that. You've been in professional locker rooms. You've had teammates you've had to interact with in all manner of situations. I'm interested in your opinion on that. But Richard Sherman, like, I don't care what you have to say about basketball. And the problem is once the athletes, not the columnists, because the columnists have been writing about various sports, all the sports for 30 years. So they have a background in it. People who have played professionally a sport, that is literally all you've done for your entire life.
In order to reach those heights,
you cannot do anything else. You just can't.
Yeah.
There is not enough. There aren't enough hours in the day for you to do anything else to be that good of an athlete in a particular sport. So I just don't like, why do I care what Richard Sherman has to say about the NBA? And you're forced to have it. If you're on one of those shows, you're forced to have a take. And then the problem becomes if you are an athlete, and this was the issue with, I'm like, this is behind like inside baseball and pulling back the curtain kind of stuff. The problem with Skip and Shannon was when Skip said that stuff about Shannon and like how he had nothing to say, like he couldn't talk about Tom Brady's greatness or because he wasn't that good, even though he was a Hall of Famer and won a bunch of Super Bowls. Once the columnist has undercut the athlete's credibility or their authority on a topic, then as a viewer,
that was probably
you go,
the end of their working relationship.
It absolutely was. Then you go, well, then why do I care what this person has to say? And so, again, like, I don't understand. Why do I care what Richard Sherman has to say about how Christian Wood, like, because his numbers are similar to Pau Gasol's at one point of their
completely
careers?
Devoid of context.
What?
So here's all right. I'm going to get a little into the weeds here, and I apologize for it. But right now, across all of sports content, football has so just resoundingly separated itself from every other sport in terms of monetizability that everybody is centralizing their sports coverage in football. And then if there's room in the budget for other stuff, you will use that room in the budget for other stuff.
Yeah, so it's football. Well, it's NFL.
Yeah, college
football,
and then other sports.
And maybe we'll sneak an NBA in. And then off season, you get NBA because the NBA has done a good job of being a year-round league and being popular. But
and so
it's
like
all based around football.
What you're seeing, especially at like the top of the industry, right, where you are talking about millions of dollars, not tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands. You're talking about TV talking deals in the millions per year. At that level, in order to get bang for your buck, those, whether it's Fox, ESPN, whatever, they're having whoever signs those giant deals talk about all the sports, right? So that, it's a per year deal. I used to joke that Stephen A. Smith got a $7 million per year deal, but was technically making.
He makes more than that.
Probably. But he was actually making minimum wage because they had him on every single show across.
Yeah, he's doing like boxing coverage. Yeah.
Right.
He has 9 podcasts. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like Richard Sherman, he and Keyshawn and Michael Irvin.
That's the thing. It's the 3 of them that have been brought in, and like it is.
They're all auditioning
when they've launched the show. It is football. It is football season when it is football season when they've relaunched the show. But like those are first of all, it has to be white guy versus black guy.
Yeah,
and secondarily, they're all NFL guys, and like Keyshawn specifically has experience. On ESPN, on 710, doing a show in LA and radio shows where he's talking about other things. But that is very different than the Embrace Debate format.
Yeah. And so like, anyway, this is all way besides the point. But when I saw, there was a clip that went viral of Michael Irvin and Richard Sherman screaming about catching the ball with their body versus their hand and stuff like that. It's just...
And did you see T.O.?
No.
T.O. was like, what are you talking about? I have more touchdowns than everybody on stage combined, and you never get taught to catch the ball with your body. Was actually kind of funny.
But like, all I saw there in all subsequent clips is like those guys are auditioning to be the new Shannon Sharpe, and they all have been told in order to be the new Shannon Sharpe, scream at Skip as loud as you possibly can. So they're just yelling at each other about and making the loudest points possible. And in this case, the loudest point possible is comparing Christian Wood to Pau Gasol. Like the loudest point you can make on either side of the spectrum here is to compare.
That is so far afield. I just like what I mean. Look, look, we've spent now 9 minutes or something talking about FS1 and that show.
Yeah, which
that's the point.
Guys.
The point is not the point is creating clips, creating content. Doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. It is creating something that is going to go viral because then you'll have idiots like me and you promoting their coverage, right?
I guess
that's what the point is. And by the way, F you, Richard Sherman, for how you did my Niners for so many years. And he's also a Stanford Cardinal.
Stanford,
So all I will say is I am going.
Whoa, are you excited for the new ACC rivalry, Stanford versus Cal?
Yes. Yeah, I am. You know
Stanford,
what the alternative was?
who play on the
SMU, now
Pacific coach?
big rivalry, Cal and SMU, Cal and NC State.
Like, so stupid, just resoundingly stupid. But anyway, let's get back to
they played. I'm going home. I'm going home to shout out my Golden Bears, who smashed North Texas 58-21 last Saturday, and I'm going home tonight because it is Auburn visiting my California Golden Bears on Saturday. So
that probably won't go well.
Auburn's
all right,
not that good.
Well,
it still probably won't go.
It's Cal.
Yeah, it is Cal.
So let's get back to our resoundingly stupid stuff and the spectrum on Christian Wood. Now, again, I think it's because we're in September and we're like wrangling ourselves back into talking about this stuff.
And you said you got into this by saying Darius was kind of low on the
like Darius is going to do everything nuanced, right? He's Mr. Yes and no. And he even said on Twitter that he kind of regretted not having more of an opportunity to do the yes part. But I was kind of, he gave up that take, and then people saw that he was giving that take, and then
I haven't heard the show yet. What was his reasoning?
It was just like he prefers bigs with more of a motor on defense, and I get that. I frankly agree with some of what he was saying, and I find myself kind of in the middle. You would think that I would be a little bit more down on the move, but we haven't seen anything leaked that there's any promise for a starting gig. That would have come out by now, and that would have made me lower on the move. Wood has tweeted that he's always dreamed of being a Laker. That is one of the boxes that I actually do now look for, which is hilarious because I used to roll my eyes.
Doesn't everybody want to be a Laker?
I don't think so. I legitimately don't
Laker
think so.
fans certainly think so.
I know. But I do think there are certain guys. I remember this was probably a little before your time with your relationship with the Lakers, but the Lakers at one point traded for Adam Morrison, and Shannon Sharp was a throw into the deal. And I remember
who now? Shannon Brown, perhaps?
What'd I say?
Shannon Sharp. Maybe his brother Sterling.
Unk was a part of the trade. He wants to be a Laker. That's for damn sure.
That's fraud.
So Adam Morrison and Shannon Brown were the trade, and the highlight of the deal was Morrison, right? Former lottery pick, all that
two
stuff.
rings.
Yeah,
or one ring or two. I think two, maybe at least two. One. At least one.
But the throw in there was Brown, and I remember Brown gave a little scrum kind of a deal, and they were asking, you could just tell from the look on his face and the answers to the questions that this guy has legitimately thought about this specific moment a lot. The idea of stepping into that gym, a member of the Los Angeles Lakers. And I remember in that moment kind of finding that away, if you welcome the lights, that's usually a pretty good sign. And if it lo and behold, you ask who made the bigger impact on the organization, right? It was far and away Brown.
Not necessarily. Who made the bigger positive impact? Yes. Impact can go both ways. Though.
Yeah, right.
Shannon Brown also, I believe, has the greatest block in NBA history, although it was called
a foul.
Was it a foul or goaltending? Yeah,
no, it was a foul. They called it a foul.
It was a foul, yeah. It didn't count, but
I hope that referee's in Guantanamo right now. So
with Eric Lewis.
he might be. That would be great if it was Eric Lewis. But anyway,
Eric Lewis was around 18 years, so it could have been, I guess.
Could have been. I hope it was. It probably was. If it is, I'll get a DM from a burner account. So we'll maybe not anymore. So I like that. That Christian Wood is excited to be a Laker. I like the fit. If in fact AD does want to play more 5, this is the center that you have to get to allow him to play more 5. Even though it doesn't necessarily help with the things that AD doesn't want to do at the 5, this at least makes it fit offensively, I guess. And the downside is, look, if it doesn't work, then you can just waive the guy. He's on a minimum contract. It doesn't really matter. So I'm confused about the negative impact or the negative take on the signing. understand the, kind of reluctant optimism on the positive side of this thing. I don't think this is the kind of thing that's going to launch them into sun-filled glory, but I do think it's a positive signing, and it's nice that the Lakers in this case got their guy, even though he had intentions potentially to go sign elsewhere for a bigger role for potentially more money. At the end of the day, the Lakers got their guy, and I think that kind of matters here as much as the player himself. So the fit with Wood, though, and offensively and defensively, I think it's pretty perfect. I think it's exactly what the Lakers kind of needed if he accepts the role that he needs to accept.
Yeah, there's a lot here. I don't get the negative side of this. Anybody who's down on the move, because again, we say this all the time, and you and I have had an argument about Jackson Hayes and Cam Reddish. Even they're minimum guys. So these kind of guys. This is as good as you're going to get for minimum guys. Now, especially with Christian Wood, who I think is better than both Jackson Hayes and Cam Reddish. At this late stage in the game, I talk a lot about opportunity cost on this show. And if it wasn't going to be like, there isn't some ideal guy out there that, oh, well, shit, we just signed Christian Wood, so we don't get whom? Like, who Biombo is the guy that is the okay, cool. Guy. Sure. And that's doing what for you? I've seen.
I'm just answering the question.
Christian. No, not you specifically. Just throwing it out there. Christian Wood is a bad defensive player. Will he always be a bad defensive player? Probably. Does he have some tools where he could be a good defensive player? Look, he can block some shots, but he's just bad. He's been bad everywhere he's been.
He's just very thin.
He's just been bad.
Yeah,
plainly bad.
Very, very slight frame.
So I think it is. Nate Duncan, who has been in the NBA podcast game a long time. I've say this periodically, but he said, and I think he got this from a scout or somebody, and I think it is a good way to kind of frame things and look at things. Guys that don't play defense, it's one of three reasons: they can't, they won't, or they don't know how. Can't means like you just can't do it, right? You're too slow, You're too thin, you're too short, whatever. You can't jump. Won't means you are capable of it, but you just refuse to. And don't know how means you've been in a bad scheme or you've never been taught or etc. So far, it seems like it's won't with Christian Wood. He just won't do it. And there's plenty of other guys around the league that just won't do it. The problem is the bigger you get, the more it matters that you're bad on defense. You can cover up for like a point guard that's bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't help because you get broken down at the beginning and all sorts of bad things happen. But the higher you go up on the positional scale, the more defense matters. So I like the thought is that he probably just won't ever. But he is capable. So if there is a scheme, if there is a system, if there is a group of guys that can get something out of him, I think it is probably this group. Darvin does a good job of relating to players. He was one. AD is the best defensive player in the league. Or like, if not, he's the second best. And he can cover up for a lot of things that Christian Wood can't do. LeBron has the best brain in the history of basketball. So LeBron will hold you accountable and is going to like at least get you into the right spots, tell you what you should be doing in film sessions, is going to be, on you about it. So if there is anything there defensively, I think this can get out of him, but he's bad defensively. Offensively, he's exactly what the Lakers need. But again, he's a minimum signing. So I don't understand the downside. There's also it's not really off the court issues. It's let's call it locker room stuff, personality stuff, him not being happy with his role various places and pouting and, being difficult and all that kind of stuff.
Camp too that don't have the best reputation is how I'll put that.
Yeah, that is correct. So all of that stuff, I guess, is a concern also. But again, this is a pretty good environment to deal with those sorts of things. And as a minimum guy, You don't have to deal with those things, right? I've seen people equate it to like his attitude problems or whatever to like with Russ. And like, okay, if Russ is taking up a third of your salary cap, then like you don't have that mechanism, right? If a dude is making the minimum and he doesn't
we've
get
seen
along
what
with
Russ
everybody,
has looked like with the Clippers, by the way. Like we've seen what when Russ is making a vet min, we've seen how teams can make up for Russ's liabilities. Just like with Christian Wood in Dallas last year, and with him in Milwaukee before then, and in Houston and whatever.
Detroit.
I think that was also one of the points that Darius was making, is that this guy is unquestionably talented. Mm-hmm. Why is such a talented player bouncing around as much as he is? That is a perfectly fair question.
Yeah, because he doesn't get along. He doesn't pull in the same direction as his teammates all the time.
And to which I would say, I just don't care when he's making a minimum deal. Like if he doesn't, it's kind of like, it reminds me of Dwight when the Lakers brought him in. Obviously different archetypes.
No, it is similar.
But like, I meant more like playing style, right? Dwight, they're basically antithesis to each other. Dwight
playing style is not particularly similar, no.
But what I mean by that is Dwight bounced around, unquestionably talented player, future Hall of Famer, should have been on the top 75 list.
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
And when he got to the Lakers, it was, look, man, you either figure it out here or your NBA days are done. And he bought in. He said it was difficult, and sacrifice is not easy. It's not supposed to be easy, because if sacrifice was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
But in this spot, if Wood doesn't sacrifice, if he doesn't do the things that the Lakers are expecting of him, if he doesn't buy into that role, and he gets shown the door, that's, how many more spots are you going to have? Same goes for Reddish. If Reddish doesn't do the things that the Lakers are expecting of him, and he gets shown the door, how many more landing spots, how many more opportunities is he going to get? And I think there's more of an opportunity for Wood than there is for Reddish.
You mean playing time here? You mean?
Yeah.
I agree with that. That's the next part of this, though, right? Is where does Wood fit? Like, are there going to be two bigs playing? Is he going to start? I doubt it, but like all of that, where does he fit in the rotation? I think that's a really interesting question, because like, frankly, AD, I don't really care what you want. Like, I just like, I'm not moved by, I want to play more 4. Like, okay, too bad. You're a center, so too bad.
More can be anything, though, right? Like,
again, he played 100% of his minutes at center. So if he plays 98% of his minutes, he's playing more 4, I guess.
Yeah,
sure. I don't know. So I think there's two parts of this. For a team that probably is still going to have some spacing issues in the starting group, depending on Rui versus Vando. I think that's part of it. Like, you just can't play Jackson Hayes with that group and AD. The other part of it is defensively, I don't love it. It's not even about AD and Wood so much, because AD would guard whoever's more difficult, and Wood can guard whoever's left difficult. The problem there for me is now you're making LeBron a 3, and he just isn't. LeBron just is not. Put the offense aside. The offensive positions don't matter. Who is LeBron guarding? Who you are guarding is what position you play. Mm-hmm. And LeBron simply, can he do that? Maybe in stretches, but I don't want him doing that. Yeah. So any lineups that force LeBron to have to, as his primary assignment, guard quicker guys that are handling the ball more, I don't want. So I do not want AD and Wood and LeBron playing together, just plainly.
Yeah, I think, and this is where, all right, so if AD wants to play more 5, then you could do your starting 5. I still think the best starting 5 going into the season, I think the likeliest starting 5 is going to be Russell, Reeves, Rui, LeBron, and AD. And then
I agree. I agree with that. Although I think there's a chance Vando starts for Rui. I want to talk about Vando in a second. Because something interesting happened last night while I was doing this by myself, and I completely forgot Vando was on the team, and I think that's indicative of
some potential questions with him. But so we were if AD wants to play more 5, then less 5. One thing you could do then is have LeBron be the first sub out of the game, and you can bring Wood in for him, and you can bring Vanderbilt in for whichever, I guess it would be Russell or something like that. And you could go with a team that's a little bit, obviously bigger, but still has the foot speed to guard on the perimeter, with Reeves and Vanderbilt essentially being out there with Rui and Wood and AD at the 4. Even though in that setting, defensively, AD is going to be doing a lot of the stuff that a 5 is going to be doing, which then it becomes semantics. Yeah. So that's my kind of thing here with the report today from McMenamin is like, he can want it, but you just got to the Western Conference Finals playing the 5, dude. Like, in the year that you won a championship, yeah, you got to come off of you got to start games at the 4, but in the minutes where it was time to win games, right? It was winning time, to coin a phrase, to cite a phrase. You played the 5. The Lakers are better when you are the 5, and you can keep asking for it. It can be our favorite annual tradition. It's like a nice cool breeze goes by. The Sunday Night Football theme starts playing in the background. The leaves start to change in the trees around my house. And there comes the report that AD wants to play less 5. Like, it can be our favorite annual tradition, but it's just until AD learns how to shoot again.
There you go.
You are flat out not a 4. There you period.
Go. You just can't. No, you can't. No. You cannot. You cannot. The unsaid part of that is the Lakers won playing 2 bigs, in 2020, AD and Dwight, AD and JaVale, whatever. Cool. Like, AD was a 40% 3-point shooter
in the bubble. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so fine. You cannot in this. And by the way, the NBA has even gone farther than that in the 3 seasons since then. You just can't get away with, and we saw this at the end of the year with Vando, who maybe we'll talk about, and then into the playoffs. You cannot play 2 guys that can't shoot. You can't. You cannot. And so, unless AD is gonna, he doesn't need to shoot 40%. He's not going to shoot 40%. I don't think he's even going to be a decent 3-point shooter. But until AD gets to like league average again, shooting 3s, he can't play 4 because the guys that, I mean, Christian Wood can shoot it, but the like candidates that are going to play, there's not enough shooting, because then you run into the problem. Now LeBron is your 3 again, which gives you defensive problems, and LeBron can't shoot it anymore. So there just isn't enough.
The last time we saw him,
he
was fine in the regular season, but fell off a cliff in the postseason.
Was he fine in the regular season
compared to the postseason?
Sure. So you just when you're constructing lineups, you just can't have 2 non-shooters. You can't. They don't all have to be good, but they have to be at least competent. The
defense has to react when they're open.
You cannot play 2. You for sure can't play 3 like 30% or lower 3-point shooters. This NBA doesn't allow it. And this is the interesting part about Vando. And look, again, I have said on your show before that, like, because Vando during the playoffs, and low key it was during the regular season, his minutes started late in the regular season. His minutes started going down because teams started figuring out we're not guarding this dude. It looks like Vando is the problem because he's the one who ends up standing in the corner wide open and either, misses a shot or whatever, and nobody's guarding him. So that when you're watching the game, that is what your eye is drawn to, and you think that Vando is the problem. Vando is a problem, but if LeBron and AD could shoot, it's okay.
Yeah.
And the fact that all 3 of them couldn't shoot it, now you're in trouble. So I think it is like a team-wide thing that is a question. Like, would it help if Vando was a decent shooter? Yes, but I think that's unlikely. How about the 2 superstars? You guys shoot it.
Yeah.
You guys become competent 3-point shooters, and then you have more flexibility with your lineups, right? Then you could play Jackson Hayes and LeBron. I mean, I still don't like it because I don't want LeBron guarding threes. But for stretches, you could play Jackson Hayes and AD and LeBron together. You can play AD and LeBron and Vando together. As long as those two dudes can't shoot it, you have to be very specific about your lineup construction.
Yeah. It's funny. People always find ways to put asterisks on the on what happened in the bubble, and I think the best way to describe what happened there in the bubble was collectively, league wide, all of the sliders for shooting went in a positive direction.
Yes,
and as the Lakers were built, where you're hoping to get X number of threes per game, and anything more than that is house money, and then got to spend that entire trip in the red there, or no, in the black.
Yep.
As they were able to benefit from those sliders moving that way because they weren't built, they had to make up for that. Now all of a sudden they didn't have to make up for it. Now they became like a super special team because they didn't have to make up for the math in ways that they had to previously. And that's why they ran through that bubble in the way that they did. They were the best group out there, and their greatest weakness turned into a collective strength with the NBA. And it was just like
not a collective strength, but the gap between it shrank. Because
I mean for the entire league, it became a collective strength for everybody.
Right, which means for the Lakers, their weakness was less of a weakness. It was still a weakness, but it was less of a weakness relative to the league. And by the way, LeBron shot 32% on 7 attempts from 3 last year. That's not good enough.
Yeah, no, it's not. No.
So that's just plainly not good.
Well, the postseason, I think he shot 17%.
I'm sure it was. Yeah, it was awful.
But yeah, I think for that year when people are trying to find ways, if you're gonna do the whole asterisk thing, at least understand how to identify where the advantage came from.
He got it up to 26%.
Don't make me do your job for you and describe what in doing that. But anyway. Matthias Eduardo asks if Jared Vanderbilt is eligible for an extension with the Lakers starting today, what should we expect? And I was doing this exercise last night and kind of recapping the offseason and looking at this roster as it currently exists. And I talked about guards, and I talked about wings, and I talked about bigs, and didn't mention Jared Vanderbilt. And it was not on purpose. Somebody in the comment section said hey, where's Vando? And it struck me this morning, man, where does Vando fit? Because you could try to find a spot for him. And I think Ham is going to try to find a spot for him because his defense does matter. But if he isn't able to shoot and AD doesn't want to play at center, that is a very tough combination of things to try to make up for. So, and also the Lakers have wings. They have Rui Hachimura, who they just paid $17 million for next season and into the next few. They have Taurean Prince, who I think fits really well with what the Lakers are going to be trying to do offensively. They have Max Christie to find minutes for, and I think he's going to be legit this year. I'm not all that high on Reddish, but they also have that LeBron guy who fits in at a wingish player.
That's the other problem with AD as a 4, right?
Yeah.
I say LeBron is just a straight 4, but Rui is a 3-4. Taurean Prince is a 3-4. So if AD is going to play 4, you are cutting into some of that, and you're doing so. You're playing Wood or Jackson Hayes more at the expense of those two guys. Jackson Hayes and Christian Wood are both minimum guys. Taurean Prince and Rui are not. So you're cutting. If AD is playing 4, you're whose minutes? Where are those minutes coming from?
Yeah, you're devoting more minutes to worse players if you're doing that. And,
seemingly,
which is why AD can want something, and I think they can. I think there's ways to kind of meet him somewhere in the middle. It won't be maybe as far into the middle as maybe he would like, but look, he played 100% of his minutes last year. If you get that to 95 or whatever, you can technically say you played more.
Yeah,
you
sure.
Played more power forward.
In what scenarios? Fine. So let's say Jackson Hayes or Christian Wood and AD are out there. To me, that's okay, fine. you're taking LeBron off because those three, that just is not going to work. So in the moments where LeBron
has to be Taurean Prince, basically.
Yeah, fine.
As your small forward.
Or Rui, that's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that. That's going to be a little, you're asking a lot of AD defensively. That's fine. But like, in what scenario do you want that, right? Because I've seen a lot of stuff online. One of the negatives about that I've seen people saying, Lakers fans, about is the like, and to me, it's a like false equivalency. Like it's like it's a choice that isn't like a real thing. Is that okay? So like, okay, who's gonna guard Joker? Like, you want somebody to guard Joker or Embiid or one of these big guys. You want another big body, defensive minded big body. Okay, well, so in those scenarios, even during the regular season, in those scenarios, Joker, opening night, the Lakers are playing Denver. When do you want to go to two bigs? And if you go to two bigs and Joker's on the floor, AD's still guarding Joker. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, well, so AD is still playing center. Even if he's playing with another big body, he's still playing center.
You're making your team worse to take it. You're making your team less likely to take advantage of things on the other end to punish them for playing Joker, right?
And if we're asking the 14th guy, Joker, I like Joker. No, baby Joker. If we're asking our 14th man, a minimum sighting, to like part of your job description is guarding the best player in the NBA, the Lakers lose. You just like, if AD can't guard Joker, you lose. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want my 14th minimum signing guy having to guard Joker. Nobody can guard Joker, but AD's going to do as well as anyone.
And one of the things that I talked about towards the end of yesterday's lowdown was how, that there isn't as much optionality across the roster because the Lakers are hard capped. But, if Max Christie turns out to be legit and you don't have to go out and find a starting caliber shooting guard, then you can move some stuff to be able and bring in a big that you are more confident in defending Jokic than you would be in a minimum type signing defending Jokic. Also, there's just no defending Jokic. So like, if you
can't guard that dude, I don't like building a team with him in mind specifically.
Yeah, like if you allot resources to defending in building a roster to defend the league's least guardable player, it's kind of a fool's errand.
And you also have the best option on planet Earth on your roster.
Now, the one thing I will say though on this front of AD playing less center is, if the Lakers do tell him, okay, fine, you'll be playing a little less center, please go lose like 15 pounds compared to where you were last year. That's all. Like, and I don't think you're allowed to do that in corporate America, but still, like tell somebody to lose weight. But like,
I don't know. I was getting a haircut the other day, not today, other day, and they had that old show. I don't know if it's still on, with that was like the making of the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. I don't know, Bravo or E or whatever, some awful country music television, one of those awful networks. And they had like, the sound wasn't on, but they had the calipers out with these like obviously beautiful girls in incredible shape, and they were like getting out the calipers and measuring body fat percentage like once a day. So I don't know if that's not corporate America, but there are definitely some industries where you can encourage your employees to.
Yeah, I guess it's a little different in professional sports because it can affect abilities at the sport, right? Like Zion, I think, is going to have a weight.
They do actually have. There are contracts with weight clauses and bonuses for, and the Miami Heat famously have their fitness test when you come to camp. There's the fitness test, and if you do not pass the fitness test, you can't do anything. You are not part of the team until you pass it, and that is for everybody.
Yeah, poor Antoine Walker. But If AD like is convinced, okay, you're going to be playing a little bit less center and doesn't go out and bulk up in the way that he did, because I thought like bulky AD is the worst version of AD. Still a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's still a very impactful player, but less explosive AD is, who becomes more reliant on a jumper, is not the version of AD that like crushes worlds. And so if if he does like go into the season thinking that he's going to be playing a little bit less center and comes in a little lighter, a little faster, that I think is like a fine compromise from the two sides. Like, okay, fine, we'll find a few more minutes over the course of an 82 game season for you to play power forward if you come back and you look a little closer to the AD that arrived here. Again, I tell everybody, there are highlights. One of these days, maybe we'll on playback or something like that, we can go back and watch highlights of the very first game that AD played as a Laker against the Clippers, and the stuff that he was even attempting to do it's mind-boggling to watch it now, because you watch him now and he's this kind of clunky, trudging, type of player compared to that, and it's just like it's
something to do. I agree, you're right. I mean, he's not clunky and trudging, but compared to that guy, he is.
Yeah,
he's less athletic.
Yeah, not sans context.
To be fair, though, how much of that is because he's bigger, and how much of that is because he's older? I think that's part of it too.
Maybe, yeah, but he's also like 30. Like, he should be in his prime. We shouldn't be talking about him like he's this like 37-year-old.
No, I'm not saying he's old, but I'm saying
you're talking about him like
26 to 30 is a big difference in the NBA.
He's turned into one of these junk ball pitchers. Like, he's that guy from Major League who had the different substances at different parts of his hat. Like, what are we doing here? Like, he's still 30. He just like lose a couple pounds and get back to dunking on entire cities just one time. Let's just try it, see what it looks like. How delicious is Hennessy?
Very. Always.
All right. I also thought that, like, in talking to myself about this last night, this is true. Like JD saying that it's not just age, but it's injury age. Like, he's suffered injuries over the last 4 years as well, and we can mention that.
I can promise you, after my 21 surgeries, I know that one.
Yeah, but like, losing weight helps those. It
certainly
joints,
does. Less pressure on your joints. It certainly does.
Yeah, it's like last year. Remember, there was a clip that went super viral heading into last year, where it was like, "Wow, Kawhi looks huge," and I'm like, I don't know if that's the direction I'd be wanting him to go with.
I saw, there was like some shirt off Kawhi floating around the timeline yesterday. That he looks. I mean, obviously, it's muscular, but he looks. I was gonna say heavier because, like, technically it is heavier. Yeah. And it's not that he's out of shape or fat at all, or pudgy,
he looks
or
more
even
jacked.
Yeah, which I don't know if that's.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So I said, though, over the course of the lowdown yesterday, I convinced myself that I think the Lakers are a top 5 team in the league right now, as currently constituted. Mm-hmm. I think they're the second best team in the West. Mm-hmm. I have them ahead of Phoenix. I have them ahead of everybody else. Mm-hmm. The only team I think that is objectively better, and it's like that thing that you have to do with the reigning champion, is the Denver Nuggets.
Are we talking regular season or postseason, or just?
I just think like
generally
team with the best chance to win a championship this year.
Okay.
I think the Lakers are. I think I would put them in as the second best team heading into this season. I thought Boston got worse this summer. Milwaukee brought a lot of people back, and maybe they have better injury luck, but like, it's the same injury luck that they keep running.
Getting really old.
Yeah,
and they have no athleticism.
You have that going. Like, the East was filled with a bunch of fraudy ass frauds, and so like, it's I can't get that out of my mind. Like, how many times heading into last year we're like, did you hear? Well, maybe, just maybe, this is the year that the East is just better than the West.
Better. No, they're not.
And so, technical term there. That was actually LeBron's description for the Magic Johnson experiment. And then, so yeah, I think the Lakers slide in as, I think, optimistically, the second best team in the league. I think realistically, a top 5 team in the league is I think if anybody prognosticating and predicting how this season is going to go has them outside of their top 5, I think they're missing they're on their analysis there. So that's where I sit.
Yeah.
Where
the reason why I asked whether, like, what you mean by top 5, whether it's regular season, playoffs, or whatever, and you said most likely to win a championship, was So most likely to win a championship is okay. Let me go back. I have said throughout this offseason that I think the West is Denver is in tier 1, and then the second tier is the Lakers, Warriors, and Suns in whatever order you want to put them. But that's for like the season. That I don't think that's most likely to win a championship. In the East, I would still put Boston. I think Boston is most likely to win a championship in the East, and I would put them ahead of the Lakers. Well, no, I think Boston is better. Let's just say better, quote unquote better, but more likely to win a championship. I don't know. We've seen Tatum and Brown just be frauds in the playoffs, right? Just come up small and turn the ball over, not be able to dribble in the biggest moments. But that is offset.
You honestly think Jaylen Brown's going to finish the year in Boston? Like, do you think he plays a single game of his extension for Boston?
Yeah, probably. I think I
wouldn't bet on it.
The problem is everybody wants those two guys, right? Like the archetype of those two guys. If you can start your team with anything, it's two big wings, like guys that both play both ways, apex predators on offense, etc. Yes, I would like them to handle the ball a little better. Yes, I would like Jaylen to be a better passer, all this kind of stuff. So most likely to win a championship is interesting because I think they're probably going into the year. I would rank them above the Lakers, but they have the playoff failings, and there's reasons for it. It's not just luck. There's reasons for it.
And the things that they did to address those failings,
they're also in the East, and the East is weaker, so that makes them more likely to make the finals.
To get there, yeah.
Yeah, whether they win the finals is a different matter. So I guess I would say like tier 1 is, to answer your question, I would say tier 1 is Denver, tier 2 is Boston, and then tier 3 is the Lakers, Warriors, Suns, and Milwaukee. So that means those are the top 6 teams. So in that exercise, I would listen to arguments for the Lakers 3rd. I would listen to the arguments for the Lakers 6th. But I think it's Denver, then Boston, and then Suns, Warriors, Lakers, Milwaukee. And I think that those probably are the only 6 teams that can win the title. How about that? I will make the Lakers one of 6 teams that I think has a shot at winning the title. Is that fair?
I think that's, in more words, placing the Lakers
I think it's similar. Yeah, I think it's very similar to what you're saying.
And look, like, and this is the conversation that has taken place all offseason, especially on this show, right? Where I have said I would have preferred a little bit more optionality than the Lakers have currently. They are hard capped. The contracts that they move for somebody else are probably going to be parts of the rotation, and that complicates moves that you make over the course of a season. But Rob Pelinka and the Lakers front office chose instead to optimize their chances right from the get of the offseason, which, by the way, is kind of sort of learning the lessons from the last season or last seasons, right? Where last year they headed into it and they were like, well, eventually we'll get to addressing the rust situation. And that was something that I criticized them for. So if that is a lesson that they're learning, I can't necessarily fully criticize them for that either. So I think overall it's a team. And by the way, I think Denver got worse. Like, they're going to be...
No, Denver, no, period. Denver got worse, period. Now, that can be offset by internal development, but they lost...
It has to be.
They lost their 2 most important bench players.
Yeah.
So, as of now, they're clearly worse. Now, does that mean, Peyton Watson, et cetera, could and Christian Brown could, make a jump forward so it doesn't feel that way? But
and players
as of right now,
next to Jokic, like they
as of right now, they're worse.
And if Denver is worse, and I think the Lakers right now are better than they were at the end of last season.
I agree.
I think that puts the Lakers in that tier with Boston. Like if a Denver Lakers series was to start right now, I would certainly favor the Nuggets, but I wouldn't go into it feeling like I did last year, feeling like the Lakers don't really have a shot. And that's about as much as we probably could have hoped for in this offseason. So, I think overall, like I before the Wood signing, I said it was like a solid B to a B plus, and now I would say it's a B plus to an A minus. Like,
wait, I think so does that mean is it now a leadoff triple?
Ooh, man, I think it's a all right, perfect analogy. It's still a leadoff double, but because Denver lost Bruce Brown and lost Jeff Green. They threw the ball away, and now they're on third. So it's like, so they're on. It's like a double.
Get the third. Double E6. The Lakers take third base. Okay, not actually a triple. Okay.
Yeah. So like, I think there's still work to be done, right? Like you still do have to, like, the Lakers aren't going to be entering this season as far and away favorites, right? If had the Lakers somehow hit a homer this offseason, they would have entered this, and maybe somebody can say that wasn't always realistic, but like, if we're just talking about grades here and this now spread super thin baseball analogy, if the Lakers would have hit like a full-on homer, they would be entering next year as prohibitive favorites to win a championship. As it stands now, they aren't. They aren't prohibitive favorites.
I don't know that there's anything that the Lakers could have done that would have made them prohibitive favorites. I don't know that there's anything that they could have done to even make them favorites, period.
But like that makes it a homer. But hitting a homer is really difficult.
But literally I don't think there is a move that makes them the prohibitive favorites.
And sometimes literally a homer isn't on the table. If you're facing prime Randy Johnson, you're not hitting a homer if you're a left-handed hitter.
Okay, I was going to say my guy Mark McGwire hit one 526 feet off him. But
famously right-handed and famously roided like through the neck.
So was Randy Johnson.
No, he was not. He was.
Why do we always assume that the pitchers weren't taking shit too?
Randy Johnson was just 6'11".
He was also a stick, but
he was 6'11". By the time he released the ball out of his hands, it was behind the catcher.
He handed it to the catcher.
He was handing it to the umpire.
I didn't like those Mariners teams. Although King Griffey Jr. is great.
I love those teams.
Alex Rodriguez, Edgar Martinez, rather.
Do you want to really quickly hit on Vacation / Ahsoka?
Sure.
All right, we are an hour into this, so the basketball aspect of this is now behind us. But if you want to hear,
I thought Winning Time was really good. There, that ends the basketball talk.
Did it wrap up already? It isn't done yet.
The most recent episode, Sunday's episode, I thought was really good.
I'm glad. Like I thought they got kind of stuck in the mud there for a bit. I'm glad we moved on to the Pat Riley aspect of it, Pat Riley head coach aspect of it. Hilariously, that press conference in Winning Time, the most recent episode of it, is like a frame for frame, shot for shot reimagining
and by the way,
how that press conference
this really
went.
happened. They have the little text on this really happened. Yes.
Yeah, that was wild. You can actually find that presser on the on YouTube, and it is that awkward. So I liked that choice. I still wish I still find it super weird that they have removed all sex, drugs, and alcohol from one of the most proficient sex, drug, and alcohol teams in the history of sports. But what do I know? But yeah, I obviously I was out in Southern California the last 10 days or so. One evening of which we were able to get together and Harrison was there, and Jeannie, who edits the LFR pod, was also there. Raj made an appearance, unfortunately, right as we were kind of like making our way out of the door. Same goes for Edwin, and Guru was there as well. It was nice to see and/or meet people. Sighting. Yeah, Sabrina was there. My one note is maybe turn on the AC a little bit. Was your AC broken?
So here's the thing.
Because my poor son, I have a picture of this. You're holding him up with your chains that you wear. Your two chains, and his cheeks are bright pink.
Okay. So here's the thing. Well, first of all, how did you get so soft? You live in Texas. No, I always, my air conditioning has literally been on for 3 or 4 months straight. I never turn my AC off. The problem is it's a little bit underpowered. And so it does a good job of maintaining temperature. It does not do a good job of reducing temperature.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why I keep it on all the time. So from that many bodies there and the cooking and so forth, it got up to it probably got up to 80 or so, 82. And yeah, it was warm, but I keep my AC at like 68 degrees. So it's a little underpowered.
At one point, your fireplace was on?
Yeah, I have a gas fireplace, and somebody leaned up against the switch on the wall, and the fireplace cut on. I also brought out, I have a flamethrower.
I just thought for a second maybe you were like, did you ever see Little Nicky?
No, what is
the Adam Sandler movie?
No,
like one of the dead giveaways that like, one of the dead giveaways that like they were like, so Little Nicky is like he's like one of the sons of Satan. And his like brothers and sisters made
like
their way
actually,
out
or he's just a badass kid.
No, like literally,
actually,
religiously. Yeah. And so the other demons got out, and one way you could tell that they were demons, taking over human bodies was how hot they wanted everything around them. And I was just like, is Aaron an extra in Little Nicky? And I just didn't know about it.
It sounded like one movie that I haven't seen in 20 years probably that I actually did like. You remember Problem Child?
Yeah.
Like just that badass kid who was like the spawn of Satan, not actually.
Yeah.
Just made me think of that.
Yeah. Well, that was actually Miles that day because he kept on headbutting all your stuff. Like
Miles was, hey, good. I like a little participation. Get in, I turned the fireplace on. I was hoping Harrison and I could hold hands. I thought maybe it could get a little romantic in there. So, I wanted to set the mood with the fireplace. I kept looking
over and like, Miles like looked up and he saw the fireplace and was like, "Come on, make it cooler." Like,
it was a lot of fun. Getting to spend some time with your beautiful family. Yeah,
you cooked an amazing meal. You cooked the legit Benihana.
Yeah.
That was great. It was nice to introduce everybody. Have a fantastic picture of you holding Miles with like the biggest smile on your face. That was awesome. So that was great.
Aaron is for the kids.
He is. You still waiting for you to have one of your own, but
good luck.
One day.
Good luck. You know what? I guess I can say this now. My brother has 2 kids. My sister is currently pregnant, so I'm gonna have another niece, and I think that gets me off the hook with moms. I think like I'm the oldest, but my brother
like
with
the
2,
free sandwich. Once there's 6 in the family,
the other like the punch card, I'm off the hook. If my sister has another one, my brother's not having any more kids. So if my sister has another one, like 4 kids, I think my mom, as the grandma, gets like a 5th kid free, a 5th grandchild free with the punch card.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry, Mom. My mom will listen to this. I'm sorry, Mama, but my mom knows who I am. I don't think it seems unlikely at this point. Unlikely.
Well,
at least on purpose,
hope, because you were great with mine. It was
seems
great
unlikely, at least on purpose.
Yeah. That was a blast. It was one of the most surreal trips of my lifetime. So that trip, in the matter of 10 days, second day we were there, family dog died. It was expected. She'd been sick for a long time, but so that was a thing that happened. So that was like kind of hanging over the house all week, was like, making sure mom was okay, because that was like her girl. She was probably her favorite child was Abby. Didn't talk back to her in the same way that her sons did. So that happened. My grandpa, we wound up burying him after a lengthy stint, waiting for us to get back home to be able to do that as a family. So that happened. Already told you about the wedding.
Yeah.
The unplanned wedding that we went to. That was a thing that happened. And so, it was just like one of the most surreal trips. It was like that 2 weddings and a funeral movie. It was just like, it was the weirdest thing. But it was an incredible trip and one of my favorite
funerals,
moments.
I guess, unfortunately.
Yes, there's a lot. But it was
shockingly, I've never seen that movie, but
I made the joke and Jen was like, that's a movie, right? I was like, I have not seen the movie.
Actually, I think I've heard of that. Isn't that, well, who's the British dude that was married to Elizabeth Hurley?
Hugh Grant? That's the only British dude I know.
Yeah. No, that's right. Wasn't he in that? Maybe? I don't know. I've heard of that movie. I never seen it. Yeah, every time you bring up these white people movies, I start feeling like Raj, like somebody who just has no concept of anything but basketball. I ain't Raj. I'm basketball is a lot of my life.
I think highlight of that evening was Roz trying Hennessy.
Yeah, oh yeah. Raj had a little sip of Hennessy. He did not enjoy. I had to finish his. He did not enjoy. Raj did not enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness to Raj, if the first time you're trying Hennessy is just straight, not even on the rocks, that's a tough way to try Hennessy. Like, that's the hardest way to drink that beverage.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the way you're eventually supposed to learn how to drink it. But for most people, you put it in some ginger ale. You at least put it on the rocks.
Yeah, no cranberry. Yeah.
Never done.
I think that's sacrilege, but
yeah, but that's at least like an introduction. Like,
you could say like and Hennessy, a little Incredible Hulk.
Oh my god, that reminds me of college. I just like,
yeah. I don't know. That'll tickle your insides.
Yeah, that's
why I'm gonna live forever, because
I think that drink turning green should have alerted some authorities. Like,
it's an awful color. It is something is wrong here. That is an awful color. I forgot about.
Should
Raj.
not be drink.
I forgot about Raj.
Should not be glowing in the dark.
I forgot about Raj drinking Hennessy. 10 out of 10 did not enjoy. And he tried to pretend like he was like, no, I kind of like it.
Yeah,
no, you don't.
It was great because he like took a sip of it. He goes like, I like it. It's really good.
And I was like, I got it. And he goes, no, I'll finish it. I was like, no, you won't. It's okay. I'll give you something else. To be fair, like,
hold on, I want to.
Your first time drinking Hennessy probably shouldn't be around me. I mean, it should be, because I'm going to be the most likely to encourage people to try Hennessy.
Yeah.
But like, it's so ridiculous that I'm known for drinking it now. Like, that's probably not going to go well.
Well, it's the show's fault, really. Yeah. Well, So Hennessy, get at us. That is going to do it though for this episode.
I thought I need some Ahsoka time.
Oh.
3 minutes. 3 minutes on Ahsoka.
I still wish they wouldn't like give her all the marijuana right before she goes on. Like, why is she so calm? Like, she is just so she's just so dull. And
Agreed.
It's hard to like get past it. She also doesn't know how to run. Like, she wears that cloak and it like stops her from running properly. The fight scenes have been super like whatever, and it's like
I have a thought on that. It's so crazy
that Dave Filoni is the person who's heading the show, because you would think that he would understand what makes her and what should make this show special. And like, maybe eventually we get there or whatever. For those who are somehow still listening to this, giant spoiler alert. I won't say who the big cameo is at the very end, but there's a big cameo at the very end there. Mm-hmm. That was kind of like a cool moment, even though it felt somewhat unearned. But yeah, I just can't fully buy into the show because I don't like Rosario Dawson playing Ahsoka.
Agreed. I did think that this last episode 4,
it's certainly the best.
And I thought it was mostly good. I thought it was mostly very good. I thought that I think I said this on Twitter too. I thought episode 3 was just a dud and nothing happened. I thought it's been kind of a waste of time. Episode 3 and 4 should have been one episode 2, and episode 1 and 2 should have been one episode 1. And then we'd have some room to actually get into some stuff here. I thought 4 was good. I agree with you. You and I have talked about this for weeks now, that there's just no there with Rosario Dawson. And again, I'm not blaming her because I don't know if that's her interpretation of the character, if that is how the character is written, if that is how she is being directed.
Her. Yeah.
I get the...
Do you think on the script, it's like, all right,
right
before we say cut, giant rip from the bong, and then like
be wooden. Here's the other thing that's weird is that, and this is a thing with Disney Star Wars, with the live action shows. Like, I mean, Obi-Wan Kenobi was mostly about Obi-Wan, but other than that, like, The Mandalorian has turned into a show not about Din Djarin. The Book of Boba Fett was only kind of about him, and Ahsoka, Andor was about Andor mostly, mostly. But like Ahsoka, it's not her show anymore. It's about Sabine. Like that's what the show is about. she's okay. I mean, I enjoyed episode 4, but like, can we hurry up, please? Like, can we get to the like actual stuff?
Well,
And
this has
again,
been.
so here's my thought about. I thought the lightsaber, the fights were good. There was a lot of them in episode 4. I thought they were good, and the choreography was good. But to me, it feels like so. In
The
comparison,
lightsabers are cool. I don't know about the fights themselves,
so
but
no, I think the fights are good.
the katana lightsaber has been badass. That looks.
I'm
not really a big lightsaber guy, but I might wind up buying that lightsaber.
I think they have been good, but I think what your problem is, and I've had the same problem, is it like looks too. In the movies, as terrible as the sequels are, the lightsaber fights are immersive, and these are not. And I think the reason why is because these for the TV shows, they are all shot in front of this enormous screen where they can have whatever they want, right? And so it looks great, but like in front of the trees, you're in front of the trees. You can't interact with the environment. And in the movies, they're like weaving through the trees, and
it's kind of like Street Fighter. Remember, they like Street Fighter? You had like everything going on in the background, but nothing that happened in the fights ever affected the stuff that was going on in the background. Yeah.
Yes. So I think it's like they feel a little two-dimensional because of that. I think the choreography of them, I think, has been really good. It's just, it feels like it's staged because it's not interacting with the environment.
They also got back to, so when lightsabers originally were conceived, like as a concept, those fights were supposed to be like longsword fights, right? Like the medieval longsword where they're like super heavy and hard to wield.
Yeah.
And in the prequels, they became like something completely different, you know, famously like and then like there's a, you know, that was not the original conception of what lightsaber fights would look like.
Part of it is because you had like 94-year-old Alec Guinness playing Obi-Wan Kenobi in the first one, and he can't like actually do any sword fighting, but yes, continue.
But like in this one though, they got back to more of that, right?
Yes.
In this one, especially between Ahsoka and Balin, it was very like,
I do like, yeah, he's really good. I think he's
R.I.P. Unfortunately. But like if they
the actor, not the character.
Yeah. But like, you know, it was very much like 1, 2, 3, step back. 1, 2, 3, 4, step back. And it was like I actually kind of enjoyed that aspect. I still wish it was a little less stiff, but like
I like because there's a variety of there's fighting styles.
She has a second saber.
Yeah.
Like, so why are you making yourself weaker against this guy?
I don't think she is, but because there's a variety of fighting styles, forms, I guess they're called and so I like that because normally when she has the reverse grip, and then in the fight, you know, and I don't want to give too much away, but she does different styles, harkening back to some former Jedis, which I thought was interesting.
But again, it's a move away from the character. It's just like it's always like moves away from the character, and it's just. You know, again, if they explain it, like, so one thing, like the only redeemable way, the only potential redemption to this approach with her, in my opinion, is if they basically say, because of all of the stuff that has happened, she is so scarred up.
She's older and has been through so much.
She has to be that placid to like not constantly think about all of everything that has happened to her. And Sabrine unlocks that. And by the end of the season, we see a return to the Ahsoka that like we came to love in
I don't
Rebels.
Know if can we without the voice though?
I think so. Because it's not just the like Rosario Dawson's voice obviously is a lot deeper, but it's like the facial choices. It's like it's the constant sitting back here and
arms folded.
Yeah, just like super pensive and staring off.
By the way, watch. You won't be able to unsee this, so I'm sorry, but you won't be able to unsee this. Watch throughout, like in episode 5 or going forward, or you can rewatch previous episodes. Watch how often the main characters, specifically, and I don't know if this is a choice, but there have been thoughts about Disney's purposefully writing these in certain ways and maximizing some characters and minimizing other characters in a certain way. But watch how often the main characters, who in this series I don't know if it's happened to, but mostly are women, look how often their arms are just folded, like they're bored. Everybody's arms are folded just all the time.
Yeah.
In this show.
I mean, I'm also bored with the writing on this show.
But here's I thought you were going to say like you were saying the lightsabers, how the sword fighting style is. My issue, like, and this was a problem with the sequel trilogy too. Have you noticed how lightsabers just don't kill people anymore? Awesome. You can get like a lightsaber like
through the
gut. Get a light through like through your midsection. And it's just like whatever. Give me 15 minutes, I'll be good.
Yeah.
And so again in this episode, there's like a couple slashes where
you think Qui-Gon's like sitting there like what the hell?
Fuck? How did I have? Why did I have to die? Everybody else is good. The lightsabers like now are like again they're like cutting down trees and splitting boulders in half. But like people are fine, I guess.
Unless you're that one dude who
Merrick,
yeah. Which man, all those theories just
he's okay. I'm not gonna give. I can't. He's Ezra. He's just some dude in a helmet.
Yeah. All right, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge. It's probably going to be broken up into a few episodes of the Lakers Lounge, so check that out all on the podcast feed. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in the way that you have. That'll probably do it for this week's episodes here on the Lakers Lounge feed as well. So until next week, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Aaron Larsoul, and this has been the Lakers Lounge.
Go Bears, beat Auburn.